Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're going to be playing the new Seesaw seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which at the end of every player's turn, units on an odd amount of power will get damaged by 1, and units on an even amount of power will get boosted by 1. And in this event, we are going to be playing a Northern Realms deck that maximizes the cards on even power to get a ton of boosts. Let's go give it a look. Alright, so today we're going to be playing a Royal Inspiration Northern Realms deck that focuses on getting as many cards on even power as possible to maximize the boost from Seesaw. So whenever a card's on an odd amount of power, we'll use Royal Inspiration to put it on an even amount of power and get it boosted rather than damaged at the end of our turn. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is Northern Realms, of course, has a bunch of units that either boost themselves or boost other units by 1 every turn. And if we do that on a unit that has an even amount of power, then that means that between the boosting that we're automatically getting from our cards and the boosting that we're getting from Seesaw events when units are on an even amount of power, we'll get boosted by 2 for the remainder of the round, rather than going back and forth between an odd and even amount of power, which is usually what happens in Seesaw. So Strenger, as well as Egmund, are a couple of other cards that can do that. Temerian Drummer being another card that boosts other units. Then we can use Vysogota of Corvo's Order ability to keep as many units on even power as possible. And we can use King Belahun to make even our weakest units start with 4 power, so that way they are starting on an even amount of power and are stronger than they would normally be. And because 5 is obviously an odd number, we actually don't want to have Devotion in this deck because that is detrimental in the Seesaw event, so we deliberately did not go for Devotion here. And so that is particularly relevant for cards like Redanian Knight, which would start off with 1 power normally, but with Belahun, go all the way up to 4, not only making them stronger when we play them, but also immediately putting them on an even amount of power, and because they get boosted every turn, that means that they will stay on even power and become powerful engines. Siege Tower is another card that can boost itself by 1 every turn if we do not trigger that crew ability, because that way we'll have Vitality and Seesaw, keeping it on an even number. And then Kerack City card being another card that can boost itself by 1 every turn, although this does start with an odd amount of power, meaning that we'll either want to combine it with Belahun so that it starts with 4, or immediately use our leader ability to get it on 4 power so that it's on an even amount of power and stays on an even amount of power for the rest of the round. So those are some of the key cards in the deck, but now I'll flip through to show you what else we have going on. And Foltest, of course, in addition to being a card that boosts other units, can also create copies of bronze units, and we'll talk about which cards those are particularly useful to do with later on. Yrden, of course, useful for resetting opposing rows. And Donimir, probably best to protect Foltest, although Belahun also a potential person we want to keep behind Donimir. Pavetta is the card that we'll use to bring the units that we create with Foltest back into our deck, so you can probably guess what those are going to be. Then Black Blood is basically automatic removal because, of course, any even-powered card that our opponent has is going to get boosted. Margarita is our only locking unit, so if our opponent has something big that we want to shut down, this is our best way to do it. Then Megascope we can use to create additional copies of bronze units, and we have some really strong bronze units in this deck, so it could be the Kerack City Guard, it could be Temerian Drummer, we could even use it on Redanian Knight if we had to. Then Tridam Infantry is the preferred target for the boosting from Egmund, Temerian Drummer, and Strenger, because of course it will deal damage whenever that happens, so we want to keep this card on an even amount of power and then put it next to one of those boosting units that stays on even power and deals 2 damage as well. Then Dunn Banner is the card that we want to try to create additional copies of using King Foltest. So if it is the first unit that we boost on a turn, then it will put a copy of it in our deck, and then that copy will get summoned immediately. Then once the round is over, we'll use Pavetta to bring those Dunn Banners back into our deck, and use either Oneiromancy or Amphibious Assault to summon them back out. So there's a look at the deck, and it takes advantage of the Seesaw seasonal event to get a ton of additional boosts, so I'm looking forward to giving it a shot, so let's go see it in action. Alright, so going against monsters here. And they'll go first. Alright, so we have Belahun in hand, which means we might try to focus on him for round 1, although we don't have a lot of low-power units that would benefit from him. Kerack City Guard would be a key one. Temerian Drummer is not as important. Then again, the cards that we have that don't need him are still quite good cards. Obviously, Amphibious Assault, Oneiromancy, and Black Blood. I think we might try to get rid of one of our Siege Towers, although they're not bad either. And Yrden's pretty good as well, so I think we probably settle for this. It's just a little bit of a strange combo, but they are good cards. Let's see, Wild Hunt Hound. If they can't boost it, then it's going to get damaged here. It's just going to stay at 3 power. In which case, I think we go for Bellahoon here. We'll boost him. Turn him into a 6. So that way he'll get boosted at the end of our turn. But he's, of course, out in the open here, and could very well have something happen to him. Let's see, Ancient Foglet. But as things currently stand, no weather effects. Ah, okay, now they're using their leader abilities to give this dominance, I see. But I think now we go with the Kerack City Guard, because now that we have Bellahoon down here, that means it will get played with 4 power. Which means that this is on an even number, and because it gets boosted by 1 every turn, that means that between that boost and the Seesaw boost, it will always get boosted by 2, and then constantly be on even power, and it becomes a pretty powerful engine. Okay, now here are the weather effects. So go for Biting Frost. And fortunately, it's an even amount of damage, which means that this Kerack City Guard will still stay on an even amount of power, so they'll basically cancel out the boost from the Guard and the damage from the Frost. I'm thinking that since they have 2 pretty powerful cards that are going to continue to get boosted, why don't we go with Black Blood here? Because everyone is on even power means we're deliberately not going to use our leader ability here. But I think this will still pay off. And so technically speaking, what they should do is play a little unit that gets boosted in their melee row, so that that is the one that gets destroyed. But no, they're going for more weather effects, and that will destroy one of their biggest units. Okay, and it brings out the Winter Queen as well. So I think what we do here is, why don't we go with the Temerian Drummer? That'll get boosted up to a 4 from Bellahoon. Then let's use Royal Inspiration now to get Bellahoon up to a 6. So now that he's on even power, he'll get boosted by Seesaw, and Temerian Drummer will also boost him by 1 every turn, so he will also stay on an even amount of power, much like the Kerack City Guard. And again, because Frost deals 2 damage, that's not going to change that at all. Okay, now more weather effects, so that seems like that was absolutely their focus, and pretty important then that we took out the Foglet. Okay, I'm guessing, based on what they just did there, this is the last turn that they want to take. But if that is the case, then they're ending pretty early in round 1 here. And we want to make sure that we use Oneiromancy and Amphibious Assault in round 1 so that we get the echoed copies in round 2. In which case, I think we go with Amphibious Assault here. And let's use that to get ourselves a Redanian Knight. And now, I want to make sure that this isn't the highest power unit out here, because this is an even power unit and also gets boosted by 1 every turn, which means that between Seesaw and the built-in boosts, it will stay on an even amount of power, much like Bellahoon. But we want to make sure that Frost hits Bellahoon and not Redanian Knight, otherwise it'll lose its armor, and then it's not nearly as intriguing of an option to us. Okay, Alvalok. They're going all in on the weather. Oh, it does hit the Redanian Knight, darn it. I was thinking that because abilities resolve from melee row first, left to right, that would mean it would have done Bellahoon first, but I think it is just random then in that case. And we got unlucky there. In which case, I think we go with Oneiromancy here. And I think we take out Egmund. It's a little bit late in the round for this, but at least we can still make sure the Redanian Knight maintains its even amount of power and gets boosted by 2 every turn. Then let's use Royal Inspiration to get Temerian Drummer onto even power. And I don't necessarily know that there's going to be enough for us to catch them with 1 turn here. No, it's not. But we do have a lot of boosts happening automatically every turn. And they're going to continue playing. And Aquafair's crew, as we're seeing with all their Frost, can become quite a big card. However, another card that is a little bit late in the round to play, and I think we go Siege Tower here, and this is an interesting choice because if we don't play it in between soldiers, then it will get that vitality, it will stay on even power, so it'll get boosted by 2 every turn. It's a little bit late in the round for that to happen, because there isn't a lot of time remaining. Alternatively, we put it in between 2 soldiers like Egmund and Redanian Knight, and then it gets that 4 boost, which gives us more points more quickly, but long-term is not as good in this event. I think we don't trigger the crew, just in case, because we might have enough power that we don't need it here. And that way, if the round does go longer, then we still have 1 more engine that keeps on growing, and it is just barely enough. Okay, Unseen Elder. Now, this is a huge card that I have to imagine they were trying to save for round 3. And that, I think, is an easy target for us to lock. Well, but bear in mind, they do not have devotion, which means that Unseen Elder is not nearly as powerful as it might have otherwise been, and it even randomly hits a unit with Veil. We have a couple of them out there, so also not as dangerous for that reason. We could lock it, though. I think that's certainly a decent option, and then Yrden, if necessary, we could use on either range or melee row. Either one looks pretty enticing here. So I think we probably do go for that, because I think we do need it on this occasion. Otherwise, fairly certain that we will not pass them. Let's go with Margarita, and let's put her... I'm not sure it's going to matter too much which row. But let's lock you down, I think. Probably still more important than this Naglfar's crew. This will get boosted a little bit more, but I think long-term this is a little bit more dangerous. Then let's boost Egmund here to get him on an even number. And then let's see. It's hard to calculate how much you're going to get boosted at the end of your turn with this Seesaw event, but as you can see, we've tied up at 59 now. Let's see, and do they still have dominance? They do. But they have finally run out of that Frost, which means that we are finally not going to take damage, and they are no longer going to get boosted with this Naglfar's crew. Now, Strenger is another card that ideally you'd play as early as possible in a round to maximize her amount of boosting, so I don't love playing her here. Yrden, they have a lot of boosts happening right now. Let's see, this is boosted by 17, this is boosted by 2, so that's 19 boosts in that row. This is boosted by 17, this is boosted by 6, so that's 23. Minus 1 is 22, so this melee row is actually the preferable one to reset. I think that's probably what we're looking to do here. I think we'd like to try to save Strenger for a different round instead. Obviously, pretty big to commit Yrden here, but I think it is fitting to do so. And even Yrden gets boosted by Belahun. Gives us a pretty sizable lead here. Now, they could use a Yrden of their own, I suppose, depending on what this last card is. And we have a lot of boosts going on ourselves, so that would hurt. Now, they'll give us this round 1 win here, on even cards as well. So I think that is very big for us. Okay, and of course we draw into our echoed copies of Oneiromancy and Amphibious Assault, and otherwise we get a Redanian Knight. Now, this is not nearly as powerful as it would have been with Belahun. If we combine it with our leader ability, then we can still get it on an even amount of power, and it'll get boosted by 2 every turn, so that's not bad in a long round. But after a very long round 1, I'm not sure this is going to have that much time to be a big factor. And Tridam Infantry works very well with Strenger, of course, so I think we probably would prefer that. I think we stick with this here. And then we may dry pass in round 2 here, in order to guarantee that we have card advantage in round 3. Either that or we push and go for the 2-0 win. And although we do have a decent setup for that, just not sure it's necessary. Especially since we tend to do better in longer rounds. I do like what few cards we have in our hand here, but I think I'd like to see them go one more card down here. They'll go with Werecat, which is definitely not a card that they want to be playing in a short round like this. That's a pretty high value Thrive unit. But they'll throw it away here for the round 2 win. Okay, so then we get a Dunn Banner, which could be a useful thing to pair up with Temerian Drummer or Strenger, as well as Siege Tower and Temerian Drummer. And Temerian Drummer, of course, another way to set up Tridam Infantry. And this Siege Tower, if we leave it alone and don't trigger crew, then it becomes a 2-point per turn engine. Whereas if we put it in between something like Temerian Drummer and Tridam Infantry, then it gets boosted by a lot really quickly. So that could be a finisher. I think we can maybe do a little bit better than Dunn Banner in a short round. And 2 Tridam Infantries, I think, given how much boosting we have, is not a bad thing. Okay, so let's start off with She Who Knows. Oh, man. This is obviously the card that they would have preferred in that round 2 there, but fortunately it doesn't appear as though they had it. It is still a 10 power unit, so it is big. So what I'm wondering here is, what if we go with Amphibious Assault? This is going to be a little bit risky. Let's use it to get out Vysogota. And it gets it up to an even amount of power. I suppose we could have gone with Oneiromancy and then just used a round of leader ability, but there we go. I'm thinking that we're going to use Oneiromancy to get Donimir out here to protect him. Put a defender in this row. Could have led off with him instead. They're going to go with some Frost here. I suppose we shouldn't be terribly surprised by that. So now let's go with Oneiromancy to get Donimir out. And the Frost, at this stage, should be damaging Donimir rather than Vysogota, thankfully. Now, we're hoping that they don't have one of those Wild Hunt Bruisers that moves Donimir into our melee row, in which case Corvo would get damaged by 2, but because he's on an even amount of power, he's going to get boosted at the end of our turn, so we should still, even in that situation, be hanging off by 1 power. Let's boost Donimir, so that he's on an even number. And there is Yrden. Wow, that is a very early Yrden. I was going to say, given how much boosting we're planning on doing, that could become an issue if they had it, but that was not the time to play it. And I was also going to say that might be reason to play our other units in our melee row so that we split our boost a bit. With the Yrden gone, that means we can hide everyone behind Donimir here, or at least the vast majority of people. So I think let's go with Strenger here in that case. And we can use all of Vysogota's charges to get Strenger inspired, get Donimir on an even amount of power. Of course, Corvo himself is now on an odd number, so we'd like to change that. Here comes more Frost. Alright, so here is where we now play Tridam Infantry over here. And let's get people on an even amount of power, including Strenger, including Donimir. And so because Tridam Infantry is on an even amount of power and will get boosted by Strenger, that means that he'll get boosted by 2 and deal 2 damage every turn as well, making him an extremely strong engine in this event. And our opponent happens to have lost connection here, but I think we all know that that is more or less a rage quit there, because they knew that we had this one won. Alright, so going against Nilfgaard here, and we'll go first. Alright, so we have Bellahun, and that could be big depending on what other cards we have in our hand. Temerian Drummer would get helped by that, as would Dunn Banner and Kerack City Guard. We also have Amphibious Assault, and that could definitely be useful. If we were to keep Megascope, we'd probably use that to create a copy of Kerack City Guard. I'm not sure we really want Dunn Banner here, though. We'd like to save that for, say, King Foltest, so yeah, I think another Kerack City Guard can work. And especially since we're talking about Nilfgaard here, I think the Veiled units are going to be helpful. So why don't we start off with one of them, and we'll use Royal Inspiration to get this one boosted. That way it'll be on an even amount of power. And I think I just saw one of their cards in their hand moving, so I'm pretty sure they have Sunset Wanderers. Oh, it's Strenger. Okay, thankfully we went first, otherwise there's a chance that we might have had to discard whatever card we get out of him. And that might even be a really nice combo to go along with King Bellahun, so that we draw a 1-power card, but it's going to get set back up to 4 anyway. So whatever they have planned, I'm not sure it's going to work for them. But I don't think it's urgent for us to play Bellahun just yet. Why don't we go with Egmund first, because that's another Veiled unit. And it'll help for us to keep other units on an even amount of power. Say our next turn we play Bellahun next to him, give him a boost, and then he'll be on an even amount of power, and we'll stay on an even amount of power from Egmund's boost. But that is fitting to have Egmund and Bellahun next to each other. Okay, it's Snowdrop. Okay, so that will get boosted when this card gets drawn, and Black Blood would have been good had we known they were planning on doing this. So there's the first round of boosts. And they'll get boosted from this card draw as well. And it's the Siege Tower that'll get damaged for us. But as I said, that's not too much of a problem, as long as we get Bellahun down here. And I think we are going to want to give him the Crystal Skull, so that he does not get locked. And I think we're going to want to put Royal Inspiration on him as well, get him at an even number, and so it's going to be pretty tall, and for that reason could very well be a target for any removal that they may have here, which we'd rather not have happen. But we're certainly going to get their attention. Okay, yeah, they're just going to destroy him altogether. That is unfortunate, but we did kind of ask for it. And then we'll get out Dunn Banner. We could maybe make this work. Of course, we could boost it with something like Temerian Drummer or Strenger to get the other one out of our deck. Problem with it is, of course, that it's an odd-powered unit, so we would have liked to have combined that with Bellahun. So tell you what, instead, I think, why don't we go with Amphibious Assault here? Want to make sure we take the time to play that in round 1, and then let's put a Redanian Knight. It's a little bit late in the round for this, but it is going to get boosted a lot, and it will go up to an even amount of power, and because it gets boosted at the end of every turn, it'll get boosted by 2 when you combine its built-in boost with Seesaw, making this a powerful engine. Okay, Artorias Vigo is the one that got reduced to 1 power for them, and fortunately for them, we will get boosted by 1 after playing this. Oh, Mill? Really? I suppose there were some indications that was going to be the case. They did play Vilgefortz Stragabore sometimes you see in the mill decks. But I think we should definitely be able to handle that, because if we go with, say, and a Strenger here in our melee row, then these two will both get double boosted every turn. We actually don't even have anyone that we want to use this Royal Inspiration on at the moment. Get our other Dunn Banner out from our deck when this gets boosted from Seesaw, so we actually didn't even need to use one of the boosting units to get this boosted up. And if our Evil Eye, which one are they going to switch power with? Yeah, they go for our biggest unit. For a second there, it looked like they were targeting Anna Strenger. But we can still put something like Kerack City Guard down here. And boost it by 1 to get it on even number. That means it'll go up by 2 every turn. That means it's going to be hard for them to keep pace. They have that Sunset Wanderers coming out here pretty darn soon, I think. So that's going to be a big card. They'll play Tibor, so yeah, more signs of mill. And that is not really a card we want to get milled, as it loses its deployability. We are still ahead, and that might be why they are using their leader ability here. We still have not played Black Blood, but we might want to throw that down here soon. Because, of course, Snowdrop is about to get a pretty sizable boost here. And they'll also get Athen out of their deck. And so if we play Black Blood now, then in theory, since abilities get resolved melee first, from left to right, I believe Tibor would be the card that gets destroyed from Black Blood, and that's not a bad exchange. Although ideally we would have it be Snowdrop, which if we wait 1 turn, we should be able to make that happen. But if we are going to wait a turn, then we need to make sure that at the very least we can catch them here, which we have a lot of points that we're generating every turn, but I couldn't tell you if this is going to be enough or not. So I think just to play it a little bit safe here, make sure we don't go down a couple of cards, let's make sure we go with Black Blood here. And yeah, we'll get up to 61, which means had we played a unit, we probably could have made it at least to 64. Okay, and they're going with Mata. So we will draw an additional card in that case, and again, it does make sense, given the mill. And it is actually, oh man, Snowdrop that they destroy. It would have been Tibor, like I said, I think, had they not done that, but they actually helped us out in that regard. And that puts us in an interesting position here, because we have a 4-point lead. We are generating more points per turn than they are, so we could potentially pass, but there is a chance they might be able to win with just playing 1 more card, in which case, is that good enough? We'd still have enough cards remaining in our deck that we probably could still win in round 2 and round 3, because of course Mill is trying to reduce all the cards in our deck so we don't have anything remaining for round 3. But since we have our leader ability here, I think what we can do, why don't we go with Siege Tower, give it the Vitality and boost it, so it's on an even amount of power, and that way it'll get boosted by 2 every turn. So we are generating a ton of points every turn, and at this point, they would need to do a whole lot to catch up to us. In fact, they just give up on round 1. So that bodes well for us for the rest of this match. Okay, and so we draw into round 2 of Amphibious Assault, which, although a great card, is something that you want to be careful playing your tutors against Mill, so we might not want this. Donimir is definitely helpful if we have any big engines we want to protect, although that was more so what we were doing in round 1 there. Not sure there are too many here that we need to protect in round 2 or 3. And then Yrden is, of course, great. Not sure we have a great fit for Megascope at the moment, unless we use Amphibious Assault to get a better bronze unit. I think we swap this out, and Pavetta doesn't work well in this situation. Foltest. Now that's an interesting one. We go first here, and I'm thinking Foltest normally you would use to get the Dunn Banners boosted and create copies of them to bring them all out. That would be great. However, because we played our Dunn Banners in round 1, that means they're currently sitting in our graveyard. So we would need to use Pavetta to bring them back. And we just put Pavetta back in our deck. We could get her with Amphibious Assault, but I think, if anything, that's probably something that we'd want to save for round 3, so let's pass here, because we are down a card. Still haven't used Sunset Wanderers, have they? And, well, the mill continues, of course. They'll get rid of Vysogota. That does hurt a bit. That's all they need to take the round 2 win, but at the very least, we still have enough cards to draw into for round 3, so that's big. Okay, and we do get Pavetta, so that means that we do have this combo where we can use Pavetta to bring back the Dunn Banners and then play Dunn Banner with Oneiromancy or Amphibious Assault, and then create copies when we put them next to King Foltest, and that is a great combo against Mill, because adding more cards to our deck means that Mill is not nearly as effective. And although there isn't a huge difference between the number of cards in our deck and the cards in their deck, they might be looking to play Colgrim, in which case Yrden is definitely helpful, and Last Say is definitely helpful as well. Let's get rid of the Redanian Knight. Temerian Drummer is probably a little bit better, Okay, and they're going with Kingslayer. So yeah, let's see. We have a Knight and a Megascope. I think it's fine for you to get rid of either of those. Those are definitely our weakest cards. And so my guess is that at this stage, since we've already made it to round 3, and we were able to draw into all the cards we needed to fill our hand, they're probably just looking to mill our remaining cards to set up something like Colgrim. And so we definitely want to do this Pavetta plus Foltest combo. Just want to make sure that we have enough time to make it happen without it getting disrupted. So I think what we may want to do is actually start off with Donimir here. And we'll boost him to get him on an even number. Then we'll probably go Pavetta, and then we'll go Foltest. Okay, Cantarella will get a Megascope out here, which actually does mean they'll be able to make a copy of that Kingslayer. That won't get its deployability because they're just spawning it in, not playing it in. So now let's go Pavetta. And I think we actually want to play her in the range row, so we leave as much room as possible for Foltest to do his thing in the melee row while hiding behind Donimir. Let's do this. And get you guys back. And so the problem is we need to make sure that these guys do not get banished or put back into our graveyard. So that's why I wanted to make sure we had Donimir down there first, so that way we could go straight into Foltest and straight into those Dunn Banners. They're using teleportation to, replay Kingslayer. I suppose we probably should have seen that one coming. But as long as we have one of them remaining, that's fine. Does mean we're probably going to need to play that next, rather than playing Foltest next, just so that we are absolutely certain that we get it out there. And it does mean that Amphibious Assault is probably the answer. And this is kind of what I meant, that our tutors certainly have the potential to be a little bit dangerous here. Get Pavetta on an even amount of power. But yeah, as things currently stand, Oneiromancy does not have anything to draw from our deck, because, well, we don't have a deck. But that could and should change once we get Foltest down, as long as they don't have something like Treason to take out this Dunn Banner. Okay, they'll move a card to the top of their deck. I think they already had Affin, so I'm not sure what this is going to be. There's Sunset Wanderer, so yeah, this is their big point slam. But it actually does force them to draw another card, which means if they are looking to play Colgrim, it's a little bit weaker. But now we go King Foltest. And so this is our big counter, because it will put those Dunn Banners back in our deck and immediately play them, because we're getting our Dunn Banners boosted, which I suppose means that we will not have anything to play with Oneiromancy unless and until we put a different bronze unit next to Foltest. Okay, they're going with Renew. Vilgefortz, which can destroy Donimir, but Foltest is hiding behind a defender. So I think we keep this going here with the Dunn Banners and Foltest, and, if they have a lock, then so be it. We at least get some value out of this combo, in which case I think we're probably looking to boost Pavetta when she's on an even number. That way she'll get boosted by 2 every turn. 1 from Seesaw, 1 from the Temerian Drummer. Let's do a boost on Dunn Banner for that same reason. That'll also bring out another one. Yeah, they're going to Red Haze, to destroy Foltest. That's not so surprising, I suppose. But now, why don't we go with another Temerian Drummer here. Get that Dunn Banner boosted by 2 every turn, and then we can put Tridam Infantry there on our next turn to deal some damage as well. Still looking for something to lock. A Mage Assassin. Not really the situation in which they want to play that, but it is enough to get rid of a Temerian Drummer. So that is unfortunate, but let's go with Tridam Infantry here. And then let's boost this Drummer. Okay, Imperial Diplomacy shouldn't be that big of a factor here, I wouldn't think. They don't have any Assimilate out, so it's not like those are going to get boosted in the process. I have to imagine whatever card they do get is not going to have as many cards to synergize with it as what we have going on. But the Vitality can be useful if they use it on a unit that has an even amount of power. Looks like they're going to go on Vilgefortz here. So that means that will get boosted by 2 every turn, similar to what we're doing with Tridam Infantry. Then again, of course, Tridam Infantry deals the damage when it gets boosted, so it is definitely still better. Still nothing obvious for us to lock here, so I think we might actually just go with a throwaway Oneiromancy on this turn. That way we can save Yrden for last and wait for Margarita until they have a card that we actually want to lock. So let's do this. Like I said, we had some reason to suspect that something along those lines might have happened, where we would have our entire deck depleted. If we had Foltest sticking around for longer, then we could have potentially still put some more cards back into our deck if we put something other than a Dunn Banner next to him. But of course, they were able to take him out. Okay, Kingslayer, well, guess what? We don't have anything to banish from our deck, so that's not really a big factor here. And again, it's just a matter of, do we lock where there's nothing meaningful to lock? Or do we reset when they could still have one big card remaining? I think we want to save Yrden just in case. I imagine this could very well be Pilgrim. Technically, they should have played Pilgrim on their previous turn if this is him. But even with a 5-card difference, that's not a huge amount that he'll get boosted every turn. So I think we probably do go with Margarita here. And, I mean, is there anyone that's meaningful for us to lock? I suppose we could keep her down here and wait to lock on our next turn, though that's not really going to do anything at that stage. So, sure, we'll lock a Kingslayer because we can. And then let's boost one of our odd-powered units. Get it on even power. Alright, so what is this last card they have? It's an Imperial Golem. It is big, and we don't have any cards to damage it. So we'll stay big, but that's not enough for them to catch us. And, of course, we had a Yrden as well. So we absolutely will take the win. So there's a look at a high-boosting Northern Realms deck for the Seesaw seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below and let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.